Thank you, Madam President. Thank you very much for inviting me to participate in this very important debate. I'm speaking today for the motion that this House will support a Cold War with China, but communist China, not China itself. I am not anti-China. I love my people, and I love China. When I left China when I was 13 years old to Canada, I continued my exploration in the culture's great literature, philosophy. And I know that by heart, that China's philosophical and cultural tradition does not necessarily set it against Western values. In fact, it is entirely possible for a strong and prosperous China to coexist with the West. Look at Taiwan, or look to history. For centuries, China embraced the Confucian outlook and was mostly an inward-oriented empire. If anything, in the 19th centuries, it was the West, the colonial powers, along with Japan and Russia, that posed a major threat to China, not the other way around. But today's China is different. We're now dealing with a one-party authoritarian, mercantilist state that is openly hostile to Western value and the international system. In considering China's threat, communist China's threat, there are many angles we could explore. We could talk about China's economic warfare, how its state-sanctioned intellectual property theft has cost Western nations trillions of dollars annually, or its exploitation of the WTO. We could talk about China's cyber warfare. UK just signed a deal supporting Huawei to be a leading role in its 5G network building. That's like inviting a Trojan horse. We could talk about China's military buildup. Its aggression in the South China Sea not only threatens regional peace and open trade, but undermines the international law that preserves openness and order. We could talk about China's support to North Korea or Iran, or how it hijacks the Human Rights Council in the UN, or its support for undemocratic and kleptocratic states in Africa, or how it exports its surveillance technology to help other nations crack down on dissent. We could talk about its lax regulatory system brings dangerous exports to our shores, or its censorship of information endangers global health. Now the coronavirus outbreak is a perfect example. Or I can tell you personally how the Chinese government targets family of political dissidents abroad. When I was crowned Miss World Canada in 2015, because I used the platform to speak about China's human rights abuses, my father in China was threatened by the security agents, his business dismantled. Now my grandparents and him are both all banned from traveling outside. I could go on, but for tonight's forum, I'm going to take a novel approach by asking, how does China see us? Does the Chinese Communist Party already consider itself to be in a Cold War with the West? As a child in China, I remember being indoctrinated with the propaganda of the hostile foreign forces. We were repeatedly told that the Western power subjugated and humiliated China in the 19th century, and these old grievances were kept alive to divert domestic discontent. We were told over and over again that even today, the West continues to covertly undermine, isolate, destabilize the country. Any expression of discontent within China, including the protests of Tibetan Buddhists, Falun Gong practitioners, democracy activists, are all blamed to the black hand of anti-China forces in the West. Chinese courageous human rights lawyers are being called agents of foreign hostile forces. The pattern continues today. The Chinese government claims that the West is behind Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement and the Taiwanese government. Essentially, all domestic problems are blamed onto the invisible enemy of the West. Let's look at some recent development in China to see what that can tell us about this country's motive. In 2017, China banned foreign NGOs from operating within the country unless they submit to government control. Even environmental groups and women's health groups have to have their annual report and their